Welcome to today's webinar. As you can see, we're going to be covering just a few of the best of the updates that have come out from 2014. Okay, so these are the topics that I'll be covering for today. A brief overview on what the account gauges are and what they do, the quotes system, the pull function and how that integrates with other areas of the system, and just quickly showing you our ACR Connect blog and some brief statistics on updates for 2014. Okay, so the first one we'll look at is gauges. As you can see on the screen, this gives you a screenshot of what it will look like. This came out in September. This is an easy glance at how your customers are going account-wise. So whether they're overdue, whether they use their credit limit up or not, that kind of thing. So we're in ACR at the moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you the account gauges and what that looks like and what it relates to. So if we go into data inquiry, I'll just do a search for that. Okay, we'll look up a debtor account. Let's try a different one. No, let's try something with some info in it. As we can see, there's lots of transactional history in there. So what we'll do is we'll go into standard invoice as if we were going to process another invoice for them. Okay. Alright, so we'll just bring a couple of products, and I would happen to come across a product that's been marked discontinued. So we'll bring up some products on there. We'll go to complete it, print immediately as an invoice. Let's change that to screen. Okay. Okay, and it just so happens that that particular account I've used does not need authorization. So let's check another account. Alright, what we might do is just change the credit limit. So that I can show you that screen. Now that's why we're getting it. Right. Standard invoice again. This time it will bring it up. This account may be overdue. So this is the message that we're expecting to see if the person is overdue. Okay, add some products in. We might just add one this time. Complete that, and as you can see, we've got the account gauges. Now this will basically give us the stats. On the left-hand side is the stats based on the credit limit, so whether they've got normal credit checks or anything other than that, what their credit limit is, and all of the stats in terms of the sales limits that they've got. On the right-hand side, you'll see the breakdowns on what they've purchased and the breakdowns per period as well. So this credit limit gauge is basically showing you whether they've outdone their credit limit or not. If it's in the green section here on the left, that basically means they're within their credit limit. As we can see at the top, they're not. On the right-hand side in the orange and red is where it basically will say whether they've whether they've outdone their credit limit and how far. If it's in the orange section, it's not far over. If it's in the red section, it's a little more far over. But if it's on the edge here, it's more than double their credit limit. On the right-hand side, you'll see the overdue. Now, basically, this is the same sort of theory. If they're in the current period, it'll show, the needle will show within the green section. If they're in period 1 only, that will show in here. If the needle goes down to this little line here, it means it's period 2 or on. Now, the reason for that is this orange and red section will only look at period 1. The reason for that being that if it's in period 1, it's technically overdue. So anything over that will then show the needle being here, and it will stay there. Okay, so that's your account gauges, and that's basically what that is. Next one we'll look at is the quote system. This basically has been revamped from what it used to be, and it's basically a module in itself. This came out in January, and this quickly gives you a screenshot on the quotes maintenance screen and what kind of information you'd expect. So I'm just going back to ACR. Now what I'll do is I'll type in quote down the bottom. As you can see, you've got your different options here. So if you type in quote, it basically brings up every item within the system, or in every menu item within the system that contains the word quote in it. So as you can see, we've got quotes configuration, and in here you can choose what's prompted and any extra things that are mandatory to fill in. As you can see by the grayed out ones, they are mandatory by default and you can't change those. However, the other ones where you can tick or untick them, you can choose whether you want to be mandatory or not. Up the top here again, you've got your follow-up dates and your expiry dates. You can choose what kind of lead time on that you want to put it for. So whether it be a 1 month period for a follow-up date, depending on how you work your quotes, your expiry date might be 3 months down the track, something like that. Also for invoicing and mail order front ends, you can choose what order, due to this list, what the invoices and mail orders will appear in when they print. Okay. You've got your raise a quote option, which gives you 3 front end options, and that's very handy for those with more than one front end. However, if you're just using point of sale or invoicing, for example, you would just do a search for quote and it will come up with one of these. So let's load a quote on screen. Alright, so we'll do a quick quote for this particular customer. Okay, let's try some natural bars, nice and healthy. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll complete that as a quote. As you can see, it's much the same as an invoice until you get to this stage, where you can then choose whether you want to have it as a standard, which is your standard quote, or a template. So a template would be for if you wanted to use that as a template for more than one instance. As an example, you might have a particular set of products you might quote to your customers, and you would set that up as a template. So each time you then redraw that, you can create a new quote based on that information. So we might actually do that. And follow-up dates, it's probably not vital because of the configuration, so that's good. But it's saying expiry date is required. So let's put in a date based on this test system. Okay. So it's up on screen, nice and simple. Okay. Might take you to quotes maintenance next, because all your quotes will be in there. Do a search for all of them and you can see any per month, month and year qualification that you enter. You can see in there. You can also use these drop-down lists based on status or whether it's a standard quote or a template quote, etc. Just like any maintenance screen in the system, you can do a search in here for all of those. The buttons down here are pretty self-explanatory. You can display particular quotes on screen as is. You can modify them, and that will redraw the current products, quantities and prices. You can cancel it, duplicate it. You've got a shortcut to your data inquiry. You've got a reprint option. There's lots of different things in here. You can even redraw from in here as well. Okay. The last thing when it comes to quotes is your quotes report, and it's the same sort of information. It's just creating on a report basis for that maintenance screen. So if you wanted to have a look at any status for the quotes for the month of August, and if you're only using one front end, it'll only have one down there, but as we're using all three, then we can do it from any source. We'll generate it to screen, and there's your report. Nice and simple. Okay, the next thing I'll show you is the pull function, and that was actually brought out in May, and this is actually turning out to be more versatile than originally thought. It's a way in which you can pull your products and your quantities from other areas of the system into what area you're wanting to use them in. So for instance, you might have originally created a quote for a customer. They've come back in and they've gone, yeah, I'll be happy with that quote. So you can actually use that pull function to bring that in. Another example might be if you were to order something from a supplier. You can take a quote, for example, and actually pull those products into an order and then send it off to your supplier. There's lots of different ways you can actually use it. Okay. So what we might do is we might do that. We might actually pull a quote into an order so we can order the products. So what we do then is we go into order entry by, let's say, by product. Let's put in your header information. Okay, so what we do then is we do semicolon PULL and press enter. That'll bring up your pull product selection where you can then find where you're actually wanting to get the information from. So I've done a search for all invoice quotes to see what we have there, and as you can see we've got a couple of standard ones and a template. So I'm going to select the template and then bring those products in. As you can see, it's bringing the products and the quantities that were on that quote. We can actually do multiple pulls as well. So if we type it in again, do another search for another invoice quote, and let's bring up a different one this time. So if we go select source, it'll bring those ones in as well. Makes life a lot easier when it comes to that. That's pretty much the pull function. You can use it anywhere in the system for that kind of purpose. And there, we can complete the order. And there are your order numbers. Okay. All right. Just quickly, we have what's called an ACR Connect blog. This is where we keep all of our updates. So you can always come back at any time and check on our updates, etc. So you go to this, I'll just quickly bring it up. It's www.acr.com.au/connect. So I've just typed that in. As you can see, we got the website right here. These links down the left are ways in which you can search the blog. Got at the bottom, any relating to release 2, you can just click on that, and the tag will mean that anything that has that on it will bring those particular updates up on screen. If I just click that, it'll show you that all the updates in release 2 are listed there. If you get down to the bottom, you can just click on older posts, keep going. There's other ways to see if you could click on a particular month and see what's brought up then. Or any recent, so these are recent ones that were added into this. These ones are our categories. I wouldn't rely too much on those because the most reliable method is your search bar area up here. So say for instance you were looking for something on user maintenance. I might type in user maintenance and press enter. On the right hand side you'll see all of the updates which you may link to. Lots of things from there. It might seem obvious from the headings because it's not necessarily searching for headings. It's actually searching for the phrase they put in. You've put it within quotes. It will restrict it again to only that particular phrase. So it's just a way of knowing how to search. If you have any questions on this, by all means ask us. Okay. Lastly, it's interesting to actually have a look at some stats. On the screen here, I actually have some statistics that I researched, and basically, on average, we put out about 15 updates a month. As you can see, it ranges from your minimum to your maximum, but in total, over the last 12 months, we've sent out to you 191 updates. It just goes to show that we're always improving, we're always progressing with our software system. Okay, that's basically what there is that I was going to take you through today. On screen there are some contact information if you need to contact us, so feel free to do so whenever you need to. And thanks for joining us today.